that our industry was being disrupted by technology. And I was very curious about that process, and I decided to move into the education space to help companies and organizations and people manage change. So that's what I've been doing for the last 10 years. And I think we are experiencing a fascinating time of change. And my mission continues to be to help people and organizations deal with change.
Brilliant. And thank you for coming to join us today. We are going to talk quite broadly, I think, around sort of what AI is, its impact on businesses, what leaders should be doing about it now. I dare say we have a pretty big audience in here of sort of HR and L&D people. They're probably going to have loads of questions as well. So I just want to encourage you at any point during the session today to submit questions using the Q&A function here in Zoom, and we'll pick those up towards the end of the session. We have some time allocated to that. So to kick things off, Inaki, why don't we talk just very broadly about what AI even is?
That's a great question, Nick. As you know, I like to go back to the beginning of things and to help us understand what things mean today for us. And for AI, we need to go back, surprisingly, for many or not, 700 years ago, when humans created the first automatas that could imitate human capabilities. And I think AI is an answer to the question, can machines think and learn like humans? So AI researchers have been playing with computer systems and software that can perform tasks that typically require human intelligence, such as problem solving, understanding natural language, recognizing patterns, and making decisions. So after years and years of research and experimentation, we find ourselves at a stage where machines can perform many tasks that were once thought to be exclusive for humans. So as you can see, in the slide, if you go back very quickly, the development of AI is not something that just happened because ChatGPT made it public. It has been running in the background of our lives for many years without many of us noticing.
Really, and then broadly speaking, I mean, this is our definition for sake on what AI actually is. I guess what might be interesting to explore are some examples of how AI is already impacting people's lives and the things that we do.
Yeah, so if we think about our effort to replicate human capabilities, we also need to put in context that we've been creating robots with legs and arms so they can perform heavy-duty tasks, especially in manufacturing. With AI specifically, the goal is to replicate the human brain. And that's, I guess, next step evolution of having robots that can lift heavy stuff. So for us to replicate the human brain, we need to focus on processing language, speech recognition, machine vision, and the combination of all these capabilities have resulted in self-driving cars, medical diagnosis, virtual assistants, and of course, everyday favorite of most of us, music and movie recommendations on Spotify and Netflix, for example.
And I guess just like we've done with, I don't know, with washing machines and dishwashers, I guess AI is just an evolution of that, right? It's all about trying to make our lives easier.
Eventually that's the whole point, from the beginning. Can we make our lives easier? And it's not necessarily better, but easier. And easier is a driving for humans. I call this the Homer Simpson principle. And if you are familiar with Homer during the show, he's always trying to find shortcuts to get things done. We could call him a little bit lazy in that sense. So I call this the Homer Simpson principle because what it means is that everything that could be automated will be automated. And that will fulfill one of Homer Simpson's dreams, which is that all he has to do is sit down in the sofa. I'm not saying that that's what humans want, but what I'm saying is what drives the innovation of technology is how many capabilities that are uniquely human can we put in machines so machines can do what we can do. And AI systems are a great tool to make this principle a reality, because AI becomes more capable of replicating human cognitive capabilities. So they will make life easier for people in many incredible ways.
So again, thinking back to our audience here, understanding the impact of AI, understanding that it's going to make things a lot more autonomous, a lot more efficient. How do you see it really impacting the workplace? Yeah. Well, how do you think specifically, even for human resources people, which is largely the audience we have with us today, how's it going to impact them?
Every day we see survey results that tell us that people are very afraid that AI is going to take their jobs, right? The percentage of people who are concerned about this is increasing almost every month. But of course, that's the science fiction aspect of AI. And I think it makes for a great headline. But I don't think that we should be afraid of that anytime soon. By that, I mean anytime sooner than 50 years from today. And the reason is eventually technology makes for a very appealing argument, right? Technology gets better. We don't understand technology fully, so that creates a little bit of anxiety. But I think that, like we saw with digital transformation 10 years ago, it wasn't really about the technology itself. It wasn't about mobile. It was about human capital, but it was about people. And I think that for us to understand the impact of AI, we need to put it through the filter of how is AI going to help manage and develop people? Because that's essentially the most important part of every organization. And we've seen that for the last 10 years, and we've seen that for the last 5 years. Talent is what makes a difference. And if you follow this train of thoughts, talented people will create AI systems, which will make professionals more talented and more efficient. It will make our lives easier. And these people will embrace AI technology, and eventually it will even make more talented people demand AI capabilities in every organization. So I think it's going to become a differentiating factor for you to attract and retain talent, your ability to incorporate AI systems into your organization.
So just talk a little bit deeper around this idea of human capital, I guess, in the context of, rapid technological advancements when it comes to AI. Is there an example that comes to mind of maybe how an organization does this?
Yeah, I think, we can think about AI helping organizations recruit the ideal talent for your company based on, the ability of AI systems to identify the true skills that make a difference in your organization. It can help identify well-being and mental health opportunities, and also identify burnout based on the way people write emails or the way people write presentations. It also can help organizations create personalized recommendations for how to deal with mental health and well-being, and also recruiting and training opportunities. Just to give you a few examples.
Yeah, from a leadership perspective, I mean, how do you think leaders then need to lead this transformation?
I think like we saw with digital transformation 10 years ago, it really comes down to leadership, right? So one of the most important jobs leaders have is to have a vision of where the world is going. I call this a future forward mindset. And you either need to analyze consumer behavior, the way technology is going, how communities and cities are developing, or even the impact on the environment. But leaders need to be able to develop a mindset that is focused on future opportunities and possibilities. It's not about today, it's not about yesterday. It's about how your ability to create a vision of the future that can lead your team and your organization to thrive in that future. A great example of this is Patagonia, which is leading and helping businesses develop more responsible practices for the future health of the planet. I think this is a fascinating time for leaders to be curious and learn about what AI can do to help them position the organizations for success in the years to come.
Mm-hmm. mean, Patagonia is a truly aspirational company and very, very committed to their mission. And I think a very human and planet-centric company as well. Are there other examples of businesses you think that are implementing AI effectively?
The same excitement that we've seen in the news and the headlines about AI has captured the imagination of companies. In this graph, we can see from January 2023, the amount of companies that have been experimenting and playing with AI one way or another. And I think it's fascinating to see the range of companies from Coca-Cola to Airbnb to Google. And you have the usual suspects, but you also have companies that perhaps you wouldn't imagine leading experimentation with AI. I know also that IBM, LinkedIn, and the World Health Organization are already experimenting with AI to support mental health for employees. And I know a couple of companies that are doing fascinating things with AI. For example, Verily is developing an AI-powered contactless that can measure glucose levels in tears. And Brightseed is a food technology company that is using AI to discover new plant-based ingredients that can improve human health. And at a personal level, my daughter is allergic to the milk protein, and we are going through a treatment that is powered by AI to identify similar proteins in other foods that are not milk, so her body can get used to those proteins and eventually overcome her dangerous allergy to milk. So I know companies are already using AI. Perhaps they didn't make the headlines 5 years ago, but today it seems like it's the only thing we can talk about.
So bringing this back again, I think, to the leadership conversation, because again, there's probably a lot of people here on this call or who may be watching this recording later who understand that AI is on the roadmap for their organization. They understand that they need to start to be doing something, but maybe don't even necessarily know where to start. This is a diagram we often use at Edifai, that AI is going to be integrated into existing domains. So whether you're a leader that's working in the human resources function or in finance or in sales or marketing, or even facility management. I mean, your experience in that domain is always going to be key and essential, but we need to overlay this sort of AI knowledge and this curiosity I think you mentioned earlier, Inaki. And the leaders that are going to drive us through this change are going to be able to balance these two, understanding AI's capabilities, but also its limitations. It's the right way to govern it, the right processes to have in place, the ethical considerations around AI. So to get leadership teams into this position, from what you're saying already, it almost sounds like the train's left the station, but genuinely, what do you think people can do? People here who are looking after leadership teams.
Thank you for the analogy. If we look at the most important technologies developed in the last 50 years, the web, mobile, and AI. Of course, cloud is there. But if we look at these technologies, this is probably the fastest moving train of all of them. And we saw it in that slide, January to November 2023. ChatGPT is the business faster to 1 million users. So there's a fascination with AI, right? And I think it has to do with this: can machines think and behave like humans? And AI has triggered that fascination and has reignited that fascination with, are we at the top of the pyramid of power, or will machines take over? So to me, the first job that we need to do, the first step we need to take, is educate ourselves on the truth and true capabilities of AI. And that has to go through education and training. Understanding the different types of AI, how AI works, what are the ethical implications, how can it be applied to your workplace. You need to be able to identify the business goals where AI can help in your organization, and educate your people and yourself as a leader on what AI can truly do for your organization and within your business strategy. The second step, after education and training is to develop a plan for AI adoption. And this could take anywhere between 6 months and 24 months, depending on where you are in that adoption journey. But you need to have the resources to adapt and implement AI solutions. You need to have the budget to purchase AI software and hardware. You need to have the staff in place that will, with the right skills, that will help you use and maintain AI systems. The third step is that you need to get leadership support. And this will happen only if you make a good case for AI adoption, which is necessarily tied to your business goals and your business strategies, right? So AI, for the sake of implementing AI, is not gonna get anybody excited, because it's gonna sound like we need to have a toy just because the neighbor has the same toy. So we need to make a business case for AI, and we need to be able to implement it in the organization in the responsible and ethical way. And that's only going to happen if leadership supports this implementation. And finally, the fourth step, in my opinion, will be to get the trust of the people who eventually are going to be using AI, are going to be affected by AI systems in a positive way. And these are the leaders and the managers, and you need to involve them in the AI adoption process. And that's only going to be through transparent and authentic processes. So we need to be realistic. We need to get leaders and managers excited, because probably they are feeling threatened by not understanding what AI can do for them, because they are reading the headlines on the news that are saying, you know, AI is coming to take your job. So obviously we cannot blame people for feeling threatened and being afraid. But the truth is nothing like AI taking anybody's job. AI is going to enhance our jobs, and AI is going to enhance our already in place human capabilities. And I think that we need to gain the trust of the people that eventually are going to be in place of using it. So that will be the fourth step, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you touch on something really important there. It's inevitable, and it's already happening. Just with, you know, a tool like ChatGPT, it's making us far more efficient, or making specific repetitive tasks far more efficient. But that human touch still being so paramount in this, it's not going to eradicate us, but we need to learn to work with it. And if we're making some of the work that we do much more efficient through the use of these tools, then where do we invest our time? Where do we continue to add value within the organization or within the team? I think that's a really important conversation that leaders need to be having right now. You know, not burying their head in the sand. You know, we saw this happen with the internet, with mobile, you know, with, you know, e-commerce, with cloud-based solutions, you know, where the companies that just didn't adapt fast enough will start having some of the difficult conversations around what this means are the ones that get disrupted or become redundant. So yeah, I think that's
I think Nick, I wanted to mention one thing that I think is important based on what you just said. That is, as if you've played with ChatGPT or any other AI, generative AI system, you know that the system is as good as the questions that you ask, right? And we are not going to ask questions unless we are curious about what AI is and what it can do for our organization. So I think that we are really facing an imagination challenge. If you can imagine that AI can help develop your business goals and help you with your business strategies and enhance the capabilities of people to be more efficient and to gain a balance in their life as they do their job and they try to live their life to the fullest. If you imagine a world where that can happen, I guarantee you that there's going to be an AI opportunity for you to take advantage of what AI means today. Mm-hmm. But if you just wait for AI to come to your place, fully developed, that train left is going very fast and you're going to be left behind. And I think one thing that we learned with digital transformation is that there is an advantage to being in that train early on. So I will suggest that ask good questions to yourself and to your organization. Be curious about the possible answers, create a vision for the future, and train your people and your leaders on how we can take advantage of AI systems.
Yeah, I think there's some good points, I guess, we've put up here on the screen right now that are not too dissimilar to anyone that maybe led the transformation for digital. But it's like, it's having those conversations, it's understanding the opportunity, but the risks. It's having a top-down strategy supported by grassroots, hands-on, pragmatic innovation. You know, it's about adaptiveness. It's about curiosity. It's about building that expertise into teams. I don't know if there's anything you'd add to this, Inaki.
I think it's the being humble that that there is a new environment changing around us, and that the status quo is not gonna get you the right answers to the new questions we have to answer. And we need to challenge ourselves to be curious, to learn what does this mean for me, my company, my leaders, my managers, and how can we implement to the best of our abilities, starting today, experimenting with AI systems. What does this mean for us? How can we take advantage of this revolution the same way that we did with digital transformation, the same way that we did with mobile, and the same way we did with the web? But the problem is we didn't really know back then the implications of these technologies coming to our life. Today we do. We do know the implications. We know that in a rapid changing environment, those who adapt first have an advantage. And I think that that's the only thing I will add. That there is a sense of urgency. And I hope that people in the webinar share that sense of urgency.
Yes, certainly. Again, lots of the businesses that we've been talking to at Edifai, you know, they've seen AI as a tech challenge. You know, so it's falling into the remit of the CTO or the technical team. But it's exactly what happened with digital. You know, it was like, well, there's the digital team. They're doing the digital stuff. We're going to do everything as normal. It's exactly the same thing happening again. You know, this is a people and culture challenge. This is a cultural challenge for an organization. It is going to change every facet and every function within the organization. And the sooner you can start taking action on that, I think the better your chances of survival, better your chances of success. We've actually had a really good question come in the Q&A, and please feel free to keep asking questions in there if there's. I'm certain you've probably provoked some thought here around this. So this is from an anonymous person, but our organization has been using AI in some kind of form, but there's lack of governance in place. What should HR people be doing to address this issue? Should there be an AI policy put in place? If so, who should actually own that policy? The HR team or the IT team? Do you have any specific thoughts around this?
Yes, actually, it's such a good question. It comes with many layers, right? So let me try to answer all the questions you're asking. And again, it's a great question. So in my opinion, very few companies have governance in place, right? And that's the good news and the bad news. The good news is that you get to create them at the same time that everybody else is. The bad news is there are very few examples of how people are using it, or if there's, you know, how people are creating those governance structures and guidelines. It is an HR issue because it's a people issue. It's not a technology issue, as Nick mentioned. What you should do to address this issue is to start educating yourself on the most immediate implications of AI. And then you can do that by creating small experiments, right? So I will tell you that in many ways, it's very similar to the painful but real process we had to go through with COVID, right? COVID hit all of us and we didn't know, and nobody had a way of dealing with people being at home. What are we gonna do with those circumstances underneath? You know, we need to continue to operate, but nobody knows anything. Nobody knows how long this is gonna last. So we shared the number of unknowns, but you went through that already as a company, as a department. You went through that process of what do we do in the face of so many unknowns. And you had to develop new policies, and you had to develop new ways of working. I will tell you that the number one thing that I've learned from talking to dozens and hundreds of HR professionals about COVID is that transparency was the key, in my opinion. That whenever we brought people into the process of saying, look, nobody knows, nobody has the answers. This is new to all of us, and we need you to help us develop these new ways of working. I think those cases show that the process was easier for the people and for the HR department. So HR owns this process. Be authentic, be transparent. Very few people have the answers. You're going to have to find the answers yourself to your own organization. Start experimenting and having conversations with people about how to implement AI systems. I don't know if you feel like I have answered the question.
No, I think that's a great answer to the question. I think knowing that we don't know all the answers, but at least having the conversations. I don't think it's an IT issue. I do think it falls more into the remit of HR. I think that the IT team is a key stakeholder in creating that process or the governance or the policies that need to be in place, particularly when it comes to integrating AI tools into the tech stack or integrating AI tools into the organization. But there's a bigger conversation to be happening, and it shouldn't just purely be driven by IT. I think it needs to be driven by a pretty cross-functional group of leaders, almost forming like an AI committee, if you will, with various stakeholders to define what is acceptable, responsible, ethical use of AI in our organization, and what are the policies and the procedures that will support that. We have another question that's just come in. From a leadership point of view, what's the best thing teams should be doing right now? Is training leaders in the most basic of tools or allowing them to experiment themselves? So I think you mentioned education a little bit earlier on, Inaki, again, in your experience, working in this field or this industry for many, many years. I mean, what is the best thing that you think teams should be doing right now?
It's interesting because change is managed by leaders, but is put in place by people, by teams, right? So I will say that no matter what, leaders are going to be held responsible for the process of change. And I think in that sense, if you are going to end up being blamed for the outcome of that change process, I would say get involved and take ownership of that process. So yes, training leaders, I would say, is the number one step. So they can create a realistic point of view about where the future goes and what the future for your specific team is going to look like. Is what I was calling before the future forward mindset. I think people expect leaders to have that mindset, and I think leaders need to develop it. And there is no way to hide. We just need to create that vision. And for us to create that vision in a way that is real and relevant, we need to train ourselves, leaders, in what the possibilities of AI are, and really give people a sense of this is how it's going to be utilized, because it's good for our business, it's good for our business strategy, and it's going to help us fulfill our business goals. Of course, you can have teams experimenting, but I think that experimentation needs to be very intentional and aligned with the business goals of the organization.
Yeah, like we said before, is that it's the top-down simultaneously happening with the grassroots. There needs to be a North Star, and you need to create an environment where people are not afraid of this technology, but they're actually getting hands-on with it and understanding its capabilities and its limitations.
Yeah.
There's probably actually a good time for me just to talk briefly, soft sales plug here, but just about some of the work that we are doing as an organization. You may have seen this before. This is our maturity framework for AI transformation. But we've clearly identified sort of 5 key pillars that are crucial for a business to be able to measure their maturity when it comes to AI. Strategy, exactly what Inaki is talking about now, but what is the role of AI in our organization? How is it going to change things? And what is our North Star? But then there's people and culture, levels of knowledge, the ability for people to innovate, that you've got the right training in place from, hands-on how to use the tools right through to, how to manage teams where AI is being integrated into workflows. Then you have a tech element, of course. Do we have first-party data? Is it organized in a way that we can use, we can use it to train large language models? And are we integrating AI tools into our tech stack? And if we're not going to do that, we're going to see Microsoft or Google, launching these into the tech stack before we know it. And then the procedures, processes, policies, governance, ethics piece, I think is really, really key as well. So a lot of the work that we try to do as an organization or as an academy really sits at the intersection of these 5 pillars. And this, for transformation to happen, we have some incredible collaborators. Inaki and I have worked together for many years, obviously very excited about what's happening here with AI, but we really tried to source some of the best people in the industry across the UK and beyond. And Inaki is joining us from Texas today to really show thought leadership around this space, both from a technical standpoint, but also really importantly from a people and culture standpoint. And as an academy, we can offer training from the top of your organization down. So we have a suite of different programs and products. If you understand that AI education is a really important thing for you, I strongly encourage you to get in touch with us, whether that is hands-on and functional teams, your legal team, your finance team, your communications team, your HR team, right through to strategic. We have a one-day boot camp that can really help get everyone on the same page quickly. So if you do want to find out more, you can scan that QR code there, or you can check out the link that I'm going to share in the chat right now. That helps you understand a little bit some of the programs that we offer and what we do. We have some other great questions coming through, actually, which is fantastic. So I want to just use our last sort of 10 minutes together to jump back into these questions. How can I encourage my team to explore the possibilities of AI without too much operational risk? Inaki, do you want to pick up on that one?
If you read the next question, I think they are related.
Yeah, so experimentation with AI requires a certain amount of risk and willingness to fail and learn. How do you create a space of safety where failure is okay and bring leaders along on the journey that this is what needs to happen and it's not always going to be a success from the start?
So there's always an inherent risk in adapting new technologies, right? That's part of the process. You are incorporating something that didn't exist into your organization, and you don't know what the outcome is going to be exactly. And that I guess by now we should all be very familiar with the unknown and not knowing what the result of our adoption of technology is going to be like. But also we should be encouraged because in the past, I think to one extent or another, every organization has managed to incorporate digital skills successfully. We have adapted new ways of working and new ways of operating because of technology, either being the web, the cloud, or mobile. So we have some success to back up the idea that here comes another technology and we need, as an organization, to experiment with it, to see how it fits within our reality, right? And that's perhaps one of the first things to acknowledge, that every company is different, and every organization is different, and every culture is different. So you need to incorporate AI to enhance what you already do well, and to perhaps overcome some of the gaps that you have, but essentially to enhance what you already do. The encouragement to your team, I think, is by being authentic and transparent about, we need you to figure this out, as opposed to, we are experimenting in the background to see how AI can benefit the company, and we'll let you know once we have the answers. I think that's going to create more fear, and that's not gonna develop the trust that you need in managers and teams to implement AI. So I will say the answer to your question is, you need to bring them in, let them know what their goals are and what you are intending to achieve with AI, and bring them in as part of the experimentation and trying to figure out the answers. And in the second question, which is related, I'm encouraged to share with you the work of Amy Edmondson as related to psychological safety in the workplace. And she just released a book about failure. And she speaks about how failure is an essential step in improvement. So is failure okay? I would say that there are some organizations that have developed a culture where experimentation and failure is seen as part of the growing process. And some organizations remain very hesitant to failure. I would say you need to work on what failure means in your organization before embarking in a process of implementing AI. So I would say you have a bigger problem if failure remains to be an issue and there is no psychological safety for people to experiment. Yeah, I would say read the work of Amy Edmondson. The latest book, I can tell you because I just finished it. The latest book is called Right Kind of Wrong, The Science of Failing Well, and is Amy Edmondson.
Brilliant. I'm a big fan of Amy Edmondson's work as well. Some other good questions here, actually. We've got two more just to pick up. So how has Elon Musk's comments potentially damaged progress in AI or not? I mean, Elon seems to be on the news every day now for some other thing or another. What's your take on it, Inaki?
I used to be a huge fan of what Elon represented in terms of innovation and progress. And the more he speaks, the more difficult he makes it for me to remain a fan. Because eventually I think that leaders and people with a vision and people with influence, one of the first skills they need to develop is the ability to understand their influence. And I think Elon is either manipulating the space in his advantage, and he's very intentional about the comments he makes, which then I rather ignore because I don't want to be manipulated, or he's not as smart as he thinks he is in the sense of understanding the role he plays in society. To answer your question, I don't think he's damaging AI as much as we might imagine, because by now we all know that Elon Musk is kind of playing his own game. But that's my personal. What do you think, Nick?
Like you, I was a big fan of his, but find it increasingly more difficult to believe in the vision that he seems to, or the path that he's on. I mean, AI is a technology that's here to stay. I think we are in a slightly like at the top of the hype curve. If you're familiar with Gartner's hype cycle, I think there's going to be a little bit of a crash of disillusionment around AI in the coming months, but it is definitely here to stay. I mean, you can see this, with Microsoft's investment into OpenAI, and integration of ChatGPT into Bing. You've got companies like Amazon, investing heavily into Anthropic, and of course their Claude platform. I mean, these are big players that see this as a long play. So I think whilst there might be like immediately newsworthy stuff that is happening that he's saying that is damaging the reputation, I think that's new of an unknown, reasonably fast moving technology at play. So, but great question there, Steph. We have another question from Sarah. What new AI related roles or titles are you seeing coming into existence to help organizations adopt? I mean, I read something the other day that prompt engineer is this new sort of sought after thing that businesses are looking for, because you said rightly so, Inaki, what you're going to get out of generative AI is as good as the questions that you ask it. So there's a real craft around sort of prompt engineering. It's something we teach on our programs, in our mini labs, like how to create good prompts. But is there anything else you're seeing operationally or at a leadership perspective?
Yeah, I think the one job title that is emerging very quickly is AI education and training specialist, which is something that perhaps Nick is already fulfilling, because we are creating the ecosystem to bring together the specialists that can educate people on this, but also at a more interesting level for me, the AI ethicist. So basically, who is going to be in charge of creating the guardrails in terms of ethical implications of AI? You have the AI business strategist. I think that's a fascinating job that is going to bring together business developers with a specialization in AI analytics. AI solutions architect, AI chatbot developer, for example. I had the chance to explore the world of chatbot developers in depth, and I gotta tell you, it's fascinating how generative AI changed the dynamics from an scripted chatbot that follows a script that was written by a human to an AI system that can generate its own answers, thus creating a lot of ethical questions. So as a chatbot developer, AI chatbot developer, I think that's a fascinating area to explore in the future. And yeah, those are some of the job titles that are emerging, Sarah. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, great question there as well. And last question, I think we've got time for, but how do I educate my team about AI when it's changing so much every day? Is it just a case of being open, like you say, and admitting that we don't know everything and we're exploring together? This is a challenging concept for my company where leadership traditionally provides quite authoritative guidance on things. I mean, I have a very clear take on this, but I'd love to hear your thoughts.
No, go first. You go first, Nick.
I think the tools will change. The tools are changing. I mean, even if just keeping up with like AI news. I mean, there's loads of amazing AI podcasts out there, but I mean, the space is moving so quickly that, you know, even if you learn to use something today, by tomorrow it could very well be different. But I think it's the approach and it's the framework. I mean, it's, you know, how you leverage AI and what it's capable of, what its limitations are of, what are the right processes around it. I don't think that's going to change really fast. So I think it's about educating people around curiosity, but also giving them the appropriate guardrails and the appropriate frameworks to approach using a generative AI tool. I think that's really crucial. And if you get people on the same page, you know, in your education, you know, and big part of the education programs that we run are about that, about level settings that everyone understands as a team collectively, where AI can be brought into existing workflows and processes. I think if you can do that, then let people go and experiment and let them share learnings from successes and failures. I mean, that for me is most of the challenge. I'm not sure if you've got something else to add to that yourself, Inaki.
I will say that AI enhances what is already there. If your leaders like to have an authoritative point of view and guidance on things because that's the role they think is expected of a leader, AI can really help your leaders be more of that. So it's not a threat, it's not substituting, it's not necessarily taking away. It's enhancing what is already there. Right? So if you're already asking good questions, AI systems are going to help you ask better questions. If you're already creating great presentations, AI is going to help you create better presentations. If you have leaders who are leading the teams in a inclusive way, you're going to have leaders who are going to be able to do that even better. If you have leaders who like to have the authority and tell the world, this is my point of view, AI can really enhance your leader's ability to have an even better point of view about the way things are. What's the downside? The downside is not playing with it. The downside is not experimenting with it. The downside is not doing anything. Besides that, all you have to, all is game ahead of you. Just play with it, you know?
Brilliant. And I think that is quite an optimistic note to end this webinar on. So a huge thank you to everyone that attended today. I have also shared a link to the webinar we hosted last month, which is specifically around bias and discrimination with AI, with another brilliant thought leader in the space, was Raman. And also, if you haven't seen, we are hosting another webinar in about a month from now, in early December, which is all about how AI can build bespoke learning pathways. So something really targeted in for the L&D people joining us today. But you can find the details about that session on our blog if you're interested in attending that. Inaki, thank you so much for joining me today. Really interesting conversation. Again, quite provocative, probably loads of thought starters. I hope people are not just walking out of here with questions in their mind, but kind of empowered to go and lead the change or lead the charge when it comes to AI transformation. Thank you for your time, and thank you everyone for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. It was fun. Thank you for your questions.
Bye for now.
Bye.